Hello, this is MrChabry. You might have watched some of my type challenge videos. Now I have a new question. What would it be like if the gym leaders of each of these videos came together and faced one another in an ultimate tournament to determine who is the best of the best? So let's talk about some of the things that we're doing in order to make this a fair competition amongst all the gym leaders. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to equalize all the levels. So if the gym leader ended the challenge with only 5 Pokemon, one of their Pokemon will be allowed to reach level 60s. However, if they had space for all 6 Pokemon and they finish below level 50, all of their Pokemon will be increased to level 50. You can tell by how some of the trainers finished. Some of them were above level 50, such as Poliwrath here. But for Bruno Jr., Machamp is his Pokemon that was allowed to reach level 60. That way, no matter where a gym leader ended their run, they were able to reach a point where they can be more equal in terms of competitiveness. Another thing that I decided to do in order to make this tournament work is how do the battles play out? Ideally, this would be done with 2 separate AIs fighting one another. However, in Pokemon Stadium, you can't really do that. We did 3 battles each time. The first battle, I was playing as the first trainer on the list, and I would document which moves the CPU would use. The second battle, I would switch teams and only use the moves that CPU used in the order that they used it. Then I would document what the first team used in that battle. The third battle would be the one that would matter. I would use the moves in the order for that first team as the CPU did, and this would ideally give us a situation where it is as close as the 2 CPUs facing one another as I could possibly get. And for the bracket was randomized. I put all the names of our trainers in a list, and once randomized, I plug that into our tournament bracket. This tournament will be a double elimination tournament. When a gym leader loses, they still have a chance to come back. The loser bracket looks something like this. The loser of Game 2 and Game 3 are going to be the first loser-based game facing one another, and also the last battle of Round 1. So without further ado, let's hop into our first rounds of battles. For Game 1, it is Water versus Bug, Blue versus Flick. Blue leads off with his Cloyster, as Flick leads off with his strongest Pokemon right out the gate, Pinsir. Now Pinsir is able to get some good hits on Cloyster. However, overall Cloyster is doing a lot more damage back to Pinsir, and Flick loses arguably one of his best Pokemon early in the game. Fear not though, Venomoth comes out and finishes off the Cloyster. Next up is Gyarados. Gyarados comes out and takes a Psychic and loses some Special. And that gives the Venomoth just enough survivability to take one Fire Blast. The second Fire Blast leaves a burn, but the Gyarados is able to eke out a survival and lives with 4 hit points and knocks out the Venomoth. Butterfree comes out, and Butterfree finally finishes off the Gyarados. Starmie comes out, and arguably Starmie is probably Blue's strongest Pokemon. And as you're going to see, this thing is just going to demolish and dismantle much of Flick's team. The Butterfree and the Beedrill goes down. Parasect is able to survive, and it puts Starmie to sleep. So now it's Flick's chance to start turning the tides of battle. And you can see Leech Life is doing some decent damage, however, it is not enough to finish off the Starmie, giving Blue the first victory. For Game 2, it is the Psychic-type Menace Nexus versus the Green Mean Machine, Eric. For this battle, we're going to see a lead of Mew on Nexus side versus Eric's Executor. An Executor is going to go for a Psychic, which does nothing because Mew knows Fly. And Mew, of course, is going to go for that because it is super effective. But you can see Executor deciding to go for a rest and sleep some of that off. looking like Eric's strategy is to try to stall out Nexus's Mew, and you can see that the Psychic isn't really doing much, and Executor is going to be at the range where Mega Punch will finish it off. Next up is Eric's strongest Pokemon, being Victory Bell, who's going to go immediately for a Solar Beam, and it takes a Fly, but it actually takes that Fly pretty well, and with that Solar Beam it does a lot of damage. Psychic almost knocking out Victory Bell, but not quite enough, and Acid finishes off the Mew. Slowbro comes out, and it looks like Eric's new strategy is to put Nexus's Slowbro to sleep and use that as an opportunity to set up some growth, which is going to make it be able to hit things really hard. You can see Slowbro waking up a few times and Victory Bell trying to get things set up, and finally it is able to fire off that Solar Beam, knocking out Slowbro. Next up is Alakazam. So Alakazam is probably Nexus's strongest Pokemon. When you look at it, it can hit really hard, it goes really fast, and it finishes off the Victory Bell. Next up is Parasect. Now Parasect does have some opportunities that it can go for to do some good damage. Here we're going to see a Dig, and it might honestly be its best option because its other option is something like Leech Life, and it's just not that strong of a move. So Psychic will finally take out the Parasect. Venusaur comes out, and Venusaur actually takes a hit and fires up back a Double Edge, but it's not quite enough, and Alakazam gets to claim another soul. Next up is Tangela. Now, Tangela, if you remember in our playthrough, basically did nothing, but here, Tangela is actually going to do something for Eric's team, getting rid of that threat. But that just leaves this Jinx who can just come in and revenge kill, giving Nexus the victory. Next up is the Sky High Legend Zephyr versus the Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Faraday. Now I do have a prediction. Zephyr has flying types, Faraday has electric types, so I'm pretty sure Faraday is going to win this one. So we will have to see how this battle goes to see if my prediction comes true. And right out of the gate, Faraday gets a nasty hit on Dragonite, but they both end up paralyzed. And I do believe that Dragonite has the advantage early on, but that paralysis there really gives Zapdos the thing that it needed, which was some wiggle room there. And we're going to see that Faraday realizes that the Wrap is just going to continuously weaken down his strongest Pokemon, being Zapdos. So he's going to make a switch into Electabuzz. Now Electabuzz does finish off the Dragonite and get the special drop onto Zephyr's own Zapdos. And we see that Zephyr is actually going to switch out at the same time that Faraday switches out his Pokemon. However, Faraday is going to be fully paralyzed, giving Zephyr a chance to lock Zapdos into a Fire Spin, which is really not what Faraday needs at this point. We see that the Fire Spin actually is going to continue for quite a few turns. Right now, Faraday is just not getting the luck that he needs to start fighting back. So he's going to swap Zapdos out and put in Raichu. Now Raichu, being faster, gives the Moltres a much needed Thunder Wave to slow it down, and then some well-placed Thunder Shocks, actually getting a crit that first turn. Fire Blast is not going to be doing that much, and we see another crit. Now, crit chances in Generation 1 is based off of speed, and since Moltres is paralyzed, that means Raichu is getting some increased crit chances. Articuno comes out, and Articuno actually does have better bulk, but it's not going to necessarily matter because it still gets hit with a crit. Now we see Zapdos actually fully paralyzed as we see Zephyr go for a hard-hitting Blizzard to knock that thing out. And then Electrode comes out, finishing off the Articuno. Zapdos comes back out for Zephyr, and it's going to be immediately paralyzed as it throws a Thunder Wave back at Electrode. And a Thunder is going to miss, but a Thunderbolt will not miss. And we see a fully paralyzed Electrode, and it's very unfortunate that this is happening to Faraday because he really needs to be able to fire back some of those Thunders if he wants a chance at this. And unfortunately, Electrode is going to go down. Next up is Jolteon. Now, Jolteon has really good speed, and it does carry moves like Reflect. Now, I honestly don't know why Faraday went for Reflect, because most of Zephyr's Pokemon are special attackers. But you see here that it's finally able to get some Thunder Shocks in, but it's not going to necessarily matter because Thunderbolt from Zapdos does more damage. Now we see full paralysis on Zephyr's side, finally giving Faraday some much needed reprieve, but Zapdos lives with 1 HP, and it's able to knock out that Jolteon. And then Electabuzz comes back out, and it's finally able to finish off that Zapdos. Next up is Aerodactyl. Now Aerodactyl is faster, it's not paralyzed, and it's able to get a good hit in before it goes down to 1 Thunder Punch. And Gyarados here is weak to Electric, and we're going to see Electabuzz go for a Quick Attack instead, probably knowing that it was pretty much the only way to get a hit. Next up is the battle between the two dudes that are too cool. It's Chad versus Bruno Jr. Hopping right into this battle, we see a lead of Articuno versus Poliwrath. Now Poliwrath is interesting because it brings the move Psychic. However, Fly is super effective pretty much against everything that Bruno has. So Articuno going for Fly is just going to demolish the Poliwrath, and that's pretty much it. Next up is Machamp, Bruno Jr.'s strongest Pokemon. And this thing carries Rock Slide, being quad super effective against Articuno. Machamp hangs on just enough to finish off that Articuno. Cloyster is able to come in and revenge kill the Machamp. Now Bruno Jr. is going to send in one of his top hitting Pokemon, Primeape, and it has a surprise Thunderbolt. And Thunderbolt's going to do quite a bit of damage onto the Cloyster and take it out with 2 hits. However, Primeape has taken a nasty Blizzard, and it's pretty weak. The Lapras is actually going to take that Thunderbolt pretty well and finish off the Primeape. Now we see Hitmonlee come in. Now Hitmonlee does have some decent speed, but it actually misses the high jump kick and gets one-shot by the Surf. Hitmonchan comes out. Hitmonchan has Submission, but it actually misses as well, giving Lapras the chance to finish the game. Game 5, we're going to see the Cowboy take on one hot battler. It is Sheriff versus Ash. And to tell you the truth, I believe that Tauros is going to be the hardest hitter in this battle. So we're going to see Sheriff lead off with a bulky Snorlax, as Ash leads off with his Charizard. Charizard being his strongest Pokemon. It throws a couple of flamethrowers, but it's going to get paralyzed by a Body Slam. But in the end, it's Charizard that finishes off the Snorlax. But it has taken a lot of damage, and Clefable comes out, easily being able to revenge kill the paralyzed Charizard. Flareon comes out, this thing having a little bit of bulk. It's going to go for a Reflect here, which isn't going to do much because Clefable is using special moves, but you can see that they trade statuses, and Clefable's burn finally finishes it off. Flareon being paralyzed means it's going to be pretty slow, and Tauros gets to hit an Earthquake. However, Flareon actually survives thanks to that Reflect. So the Reflect really actually playing an important role here against the Tauros. Tauros is able to go for a Body Slam on the Arcanine, getting a Paralysis, but Tauros goes down to a Fire Blast. Next up is Persian. Now the good thing about Persian is it has Slash, and that means it has high crit chances. However, even with that, Arcanine is able to take a hit, fire back with a Fire Blast, and get a burn. We see Arcanine go down, and Moltres takes its place, and a Slash is not going to do that much damage to the Moltres. Moltres is going to take to the sky, and the burn is going to actually start whittling down on the Persian, even with Moltres' Fly miss. Moltres is just going to keep going up into the air, and we're going to see another miss from Persian, of course, but Moltres is able to revenge kill finally. Dodrio comes out, and it's going to go for a Drill Peck, finishing off the Moltres, and we see Rapidash coming out. Now, the thing about Rapidash is it's going to be faster, but Drill Peck is still doing some decent damage. However, a Fire Spin is going to shut down the Dodrio. Now, with that being locked in, it is time to switch into Porygon. Now, Porygon is going to get locked in just as Dodrio did before. And the attack is just going to continue as Porygon slowly gets whittled down, and then a swap out. Dodrio comes out to take that place, but Rapidash being faster than Dodrio, really, Sheriff is relying on a miss to even be able to throw out an attack. And you can see that the attack is just going to start whittling down the Dodrio. Dodrio is stuck, is locked in, and Porygon makes another return. But with Rapidash being faster, Porygon is just as likely to be locked into a Fire Spin. And it looks like Ash's strategy at this point is to go for Fire Spin no matter what Sheriff's new tactic is. If Sheriff tries to switch, just finish it off with some more Fire Spins, and that seems to be working for Ash. Now Stomp is going to come in and finish off Porygon and Dodrio, giving Ash a victory. Game 6 is the final game of round 1. Here we have a first match between the loser bracket. We see Eric facing Faraday. So now hopping into the first battle of the losers bracket, we see Zapdos and Victory Bell. And Victory Bell is going to try to go for a Sleep Powder, probably to try to set up some growths. And after taking a fly, it finally gets one in. However, instead of going for a growth, we're going to see an acid come from this Victory Bell, trying to whittle down Zapdos, being the biggest threat that Faraday has. It finally wakes up, and it's able to go for a fly. Being faster, Victory Bell is unable to put it back to sleep before being knocked out. On Eric's side, Venusaur comes out ready to face down Zapdos. Zapdos, still being faster, is able to get into the air, dodging a Toxic, and hits with a nasty fly. However, Venusaur goes for Double Edge this time, not being quite enough, and it goes down to a Thunderbolt. Executor comes out, and it's able to go for a Psychic, but it's going to miss, of course, because Zapdos, being faster, takes to the air and does a lot of damage. Zapdos finally goes down to a Psychic, and now Electabuzz comes out. Electabuzz goes for a Strength to finish off the Executor, and we're going to see Tangela come out. Now, Tangela didn't really do much in the actual playthrough, but here we're going to see that it doesn't really do much at all. It misses 2 Poison Powders and just goes down to a Psychic. Next up is Parasect. Now, Parasect does have some options when it comes to hitting Electabuzz, and that is Dig. However, Electabuzz being faster means that it's able to get a nasty Psychic, and it actually survives the Dig. Parasect surprisingly survives the next Psychic with only 6 HP, but Jolteon is being a lot faster, gets the knockout, giving Faraday the first victory of the losers bracket. So here it is, our current standing at the end of round 1. And so far, only one elimination has been called, and that is Eric being the first one out of this tournament. What's going to happen next? Put in the comments who you think is going to be the top dog of round 2. The first battle of round 2, we're going to see Blue facing Jasper. Jasper making his first appearance here in the tournament. We're going to see a lead of Ammonite versus Starmie. Starmie being Blue's probably his best Pokemon, and you're going to see that these Thunderbolts are going to do a ton of damage to Amistar. But Amistar is no slouch and is going to fire back some Hydro Pumps that are actually doing quite a bit of damage. Now we're going to see a swap into Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl being faster, it's going to go for a wing attack to finish off the Starmie. Next, we're going to see Vaporeon come out. Now, Vaporeon does have some good bulk, so Jasper is going to go for a Hyper Beam right out the gate and just destroy that Vaporeon. Tentacruel comes out, but the Aerodactyl has to recharge, giving Tentacruel a chance to get a revenge kill. We're going to see Onix come out. Now, at this point, Onix can't really do much to Tentacruel. It is so weak on that special defense side, and the problem with Jasper's team is that most of his Pokemon are super duper weak to water type moves, and in fact the rest of them are, and Golem stands no chance. He can't even get a hit in at this point, so Blue easily wins round 2. Hopping right into Game 8, we're going to see Nexus take on Zephyr. Now Nexus is going to lead off with the Hypno, as Zephyr leads off with the same Zapdos that gave him so much success in his round 1 battle. We're going to see some Thunderbolts coming in from the Zapdos side. However, it's not going to be enough, and Hypno actually survives with enough HP to one-up the Zapdos. Dragonite comes in. Dragonite is faster than Hypno, so it just goes for a knockout blow here with a Body Slam. And we're going to see Slowbro come in. Now, the problem with Slowbro is that it is slower than Dragonite, meaning that Dragonite easily can lock this thing in with a wrap. So a switch into Jinx, and Jinx gets a nice Ice Beam crit, one-shotting the Dragonite. Gyarados is out, and we're going to see a Psychic onto the Gyarados. However, even with that special drop, it's not going to matter because Gyarados goes for Strength. And honestly, the Mr. Mime coming out might mean that the special drop doesn't matter in this turn either, because Thunderbolt is 4 times effective against Gyarados, and Gyarados stands no chance. Articuno comes out, fires off a Blizzard as Mr. Mime throws out some Thunderbolts and almost knocks out the Articuno, but an Ice Beam comes in for a finish. And now Mew is out here. Mew, being faster, gets a nice revenge kill onto the Articuno, leaving a Moltres to come in and try to turn the tides of battle. And it goes for Fire Blast, but it's not quite enough, and it doesn't even get the burn, so Moltres isn't able to do much. Aerodactyl comes out, and this thing is faster, so it's going to go for Fly, go up into the air and dodge a Psychic, and get a nice amount of damage, but a Psychic does come through and does a lot of damage back to Aerodactyl. However, Mew goes down, and that just leaves Alakazam, arguably the strongest Pokemon in this whole tournament, who is able to finish the game. Game 9 gives us another first trainer here in the tournament, and that's going to be Hemlock, the Poison-type leader of Team Rocket, finally coming into this battle, showing off his Poison-type Pokemon against Chad's Ice-type Pokemon. Gengar leads the way, and Gengar being probably the strongest Pokemon that Hemlock has, he's going to go for a Thunderbolt and then try to sacrifice himself to get a KO on the Articuno, but it's not quite enough. Now we're going to see Tentacruel come out and try to turn the tides of battle. And by tides, I mean Surf. And Surf is able to knock out Articuno after Tentacruel actually has to take a fly. Now we're going to see a Mega Drain trying to get some health back onto Tentacruel, but it's not enough to survive this Thunderbolt. Venusaur comes out, and Venusaur has a really strong Razor Leaf, but it ends up not being enough, and Venusaur has to take some pretty immense damage here. It is able to take out the Lapras, but then Jinx coming out. Jinx has an easy time just finishing off this Venusaur now that it was at a weakened state. Muck comes out, and Muck is going to have to survive a Psychic, and it barely does, but the Sludge is not enough, and the second Psychic will finish off the Muck. Now we're going to see a Golbat come in. Now Golbat does have good speed, and that's probably why Chad decided to switch here, trying to save that Jinx for later. And Cloyster comes in with really good bulk, able to take all the hits that Golbat throws and fire back with a Blizzard. Weezing comes out, and now Weezing is going to get hit with a Blizzard, but it survives and fires off a Fire Blast, getting a nice burn. But the Surf will finish the game in Chad's favor. Game 10, we have a new introduction, and that's going to be Giovanni Jr. and his ground types. Now, Giovanni Jr. is going to send out the Rhydon in the face of Ash's Rapidash. And Rapidash doing the same tactic that gave Ash a lot of credence in that first round, going for Fire Spin wherever it has the speed advantage. Here, Sandslash comes out, and instead of going for a Fire Spin, we're going to see a swap into Charizard, who comes out and then goes for Flamethrower on the Sandslash. Sandslash going for some Swords Dances, however, the second Swords Dance probably wasn't the best idea, and now Rhydon comes out and takes a Flamethrower. Charizard goes for another Flamethrower, and then it gets hit with a nasty Rock Slide, knocking Ash out. Ash brings the Rapidash back out, and it's pretty much a continuation of what came earlier, only this time Rapidash actually misses and then gets knocked out with an Earthquake. Moltres comes out, and Moltres, being super weak to Rock Throw, tries to go in and actually gets a nice Fire Spin going, so Rock Slide not being able to come in and hurt Moltres that much. We're going to see Rhydon still trapped in the fire, and Moltres is looking like it's going to get a knockout on Rhydon, and it actually does. Fire Spin until it's knocked out. Nidoqueen comes in, and Nidoqueen gets caught up in the same tactic that Ash used before, Fire Spinning until the battle is won. That seems to be Ash's main tactic when it comes to these battles, and Nidoqueen is unable to do anything, so Giovanni Jr. switches into the Nidoking, who actually has a little bit more speed and goes for the Blizzard. However, the Blizzard actually doesn't do that much to Moltres, and it is actually super effective against Moltres, because in Gen 1, Fire did not resist Ice, and then Moltres actually misses that Fire Spin and then goes down to a Surf. Arcanine comes out, and Arcanine does have some good speed, so a Fire Blast comes out, but Nidoking actually survives and fires back with that Surf. And then the Fire Blast ends up missing Nidoking, giving Nidoking another chance to get some good damage on Arcanine before Nidoking goes down. The Trio comes out. Now, the Trio is blazingly fast, so this thing's going to be able to probably Earthquake everything on Ash's side of the field, and Earthquake takes down the Arcanine. Earthquake is going to take a lot of damage onto the Flareon, and Flareon is just not able to fire back with enough power to get rid of Dugtrio. Before Ash has time to rest, Ash is brought into his first loser bracket game against Flick. Now, there's obviously a type advantage in Ash's favor, so we're going to see how that plays out. Charizard is the lead, and Flamethrower barbecues the Venomoth. Butterfree comes out, and Barbecue is the name of the game, because Butterfree also goes down to one Flamethrower. Pinsir, Flick's strongest Pokemon, comes out and just gets annihilated by a Flamethrower. Beedrill, pretty much the same thing's going to happen. Flamethrower, Beedrill's gone, and that just leaves one more Pokemon on Flick's side. Not the best thing to have when facing a Fire-type gym leader. Game 12 is a showdown between Hemlock and Faraday. Out of these two, who do you think is going to win? Let's hop right in. Gengar is going to be the lead for Hemlock, as Zapdos is the lead for Faraday. And an immediate explosion out of the gate, trying to take down Faraday's strongest Pokemon, but not quite enough. Fly into the Venusaur, and it's not going to be enough to take on Venusaur. Venusaur gets the knockout on Zapdos. Electabuzz comes in and fires off a Psychic, being enough to destroy the Venusaur. Now we're going to see Tentacruel come in, but Tentacruel is weak. However, Tentacruel does have good special bulk, so it's going to be able to take a Psychic, but that special drop is going to be really annoying for Tentacruel, and the next turn it gets knocked out by a Thunder Punch. Electabuzz goes for Psychic on Muck, and we're going to see a one-shot because of a crit. Weezing, also weak to Psychic, and Electabuzz does have really high speed, so it's going to be able to hit that Weezing, and it takes the Sludge. Weezing goes down to the next hit, and now that leaves Golbat. Golbat is weak to Electric, weak to Psychic, and Electabuzz goes for Quick Attack, probably because it might be slower than Golbat. I'm not sure of the speed stat there, but for some reason Faraday decided Quick Attack was needed. Electrode comes in. Electrode is faster, so a Thunder, if it connects, will do a lot of damage, and it gives Faraday a victory. Game 13, we see the return of Zephyr and Bruno. We hop right in here, Dragonite as the lead on Zephyr's side, as Bruno leads with his utterly powerful Machamp. We're going to see a wrap right out of the gate for Dragonite. Since it is faster than Machamp, it does get the jump on that, and we're going to see a swap here into Poliwrath. Now Dragonite goes for Body Slam, getting a Paralysis, but then taking a nasty Ice Beam. Dragonite now, luckily having that Paralysis means that its wraps will be doing much better, and then Primate comes out and finishes off the Dragonite. We see Zapdos come out, and Zapdos is a really strong Pokemon for Zephyr. It does have to take a nasty Mega Kick though, but a Drill Peck almost takes out Primate, and then the Mega Kick misses, meaning that the Primate is finally taken down. Machamp comes back out, and since Zapdos is faster, it is able to get the Paralysis before it is knocked out by a Rock Slide. Articuno comes out, and Articuno is very weak to Rock Slide, so it's going to go for the Fly, and with no guard not being a thing here in Gen 1, the Rock Slide misses, but the Fly isn't enough, and Articuno goes down to the Rock Slide. Aerodactyl comes out. Aerodactyl does have a lot of speed, and it does have some really good attacks, so it goes for Fly here, and this time Fly does a lot of damage, but Machamp actually survives, but with that Paralysis, that means that Aerodactyl's luckily able to come in and continue its onslaught into Bruno's Pokemon. Poliwrath is already paralyzed, so Aerodactyl is going to come in and have some extra chances, but Poliwrath powers through and throws a Surf at the Aerodactyl. Now we see Gyarados come out. Now Gyarados is able to take these Surfs pretty well. Poliwrath really doesn't have much that can take on Gyarados, and it goes down. Hitmonchan comes out, and at this point, Gyarados is at an advantage. Hitmonchan goes for agility to try to give some more speed, but the Mega Kick really doesn't do that much damage onto Gyarados. Gyarados does have some decent bulk. Strength will finish off the Hitmonchan, and that leaves one more Pokemon, the Hitmonlee. Now Hitmonlee is pretty fast, and the Body Slam does get a paralysis. However, a crit from Gyarados is enough to finish the game. Game 14 gives us the last battle of round 2. Who's going to win, Jasper or the Sheriff? Jasper leads off with the Ammonite, as Sheriff leads off with that Snorlax. And a Hydro Pump does actually a lot of damage. But Body Slam doesn't do much to Amistar because Amistar resists normal. Snorlax goes down to the second Hydro Pump, but now Clefable comes out. Now Clefable actually has better special, but that's still not going to save it from these Hydro Pumps, and even a Thunderbolt, Amistar takes that pretty easily. Tauros comes out, and Tauros is going to throw out an Earthquake, and Amistar actually survives, and it hits with a really powerful Hydro Pump, almost taking Tauros out. Aerodactyl comes out, and Aerodactyl does not have to worry about the Body Slam doing much damage or Earthquake doing any damage. So a Fly comes in and finishes off the Tauros. Next up is Dodrio. Now, Dodrio is a pretty fast Pokemon, but Aerodactyl is faster, and it fires off a Hyper Beam. Porygon comes out. Now, Porygon is going to be able to throw an attack at Aerodactyl since Aerodactyl has to recharge. But now that it's recharged, it goes for Hyper Beam and actually misses this turn. So now we're going to see Golem come out. Golem being Jasper's strongest Pokemon. And Golem throws an Earthquake and is able to knock out the Porygon. Persian comes out, and honestly, Persian can't do much to Golem. Hyper Beam does pretty much nothing, and it just gives Golem a chance to just finish off the Persian, and giving Jasper a victory. I'm here to take you in, Rocket. I know you're the reason we're all here.
I have no part in this. I'm just as confused as you are, Sheriff.
And I bet these here are your associates. You're all coming with me. Wait, who is this guy? As we make our way to round 3, here is our bracket at this point. Who do you think is going to be the top player of round 3? The first game of round 3 sees Nexus taking on Blue. Who's going to win, Psychic or Water? Really great types, especially for Generation 1. And we're going to see them come together. A Body Slam from Vaporeon, probably fishing for the paralysis, and doesn't quite get it, and gets hit with some pretty nasty Psychics. One of the things about Slowbro is that it resists pretty much anything that Blue could throw out there. That is, except Starmie. Starmie can resist some of these hits from Slowbro and fire back with a well-placed Thunderbolt. And that's what Blue's going to do, Thunderbolt and get rid of the Slowbro. Alakazam comes out, and Alakazam is a very scary Pokemon. And it gets a Thunder Wave in, and it is successful in stopping Starmie in its tracks. But Starmie is able to come in and get a Surf, and at that point Nexus is going to switch out into Mr. Mime. Now, Mr. Mime does carry Thunderbolt, and that's going to give Nexus an ability to take down this Starmie. Tentacruel comes out. Tentacruel does have some decent bulk to it, but it is weak to Psychic, and that's going to do a lot of damage. Surf will finish off the Mr. Mime. Mew comes out, and Mew is able to take some of these hits pretty well and fire back with some well-placed Psychics, and that's what we're going to see. Blastoise is going to hop out here. Now, Blastoise does have some pretty decent bulk, but it still takes a lot from that Psychic, and it tries to go for Surf, but it's not going to be enough. Mew is really coming in and doing a lot of damage. Now, Nexus is probably wishing that Mr. Mime was able to come in and Thunderbolt, but Mew is still able to do quite a bit of damage with its own Psychic, and Mr. Mime is not necessarily needed. Vaporeon comes back out, and a quick attack just for some chip but it's still not enough. And in fact, Vaporeon survives with 2 HP, but 2 Psychics will be enough. We're going to see Cloyster come out. Now, Cloyster is good defensively. However, on that special side, it has a lot that it lacks. And Surf is not going to be enough, and Mew gets the victory. In Game 16, we see Chad take on Giovanni Jr. Hopping right into this battle, we're going to see Chad lead off with Articuno, his strongest Pokemon, versus Dugtrio. And Dugtrio goes for a Toxic early on, but actually misses, and Rhydon comes out. Now, Articuno is able to knock out the first 2 Pokemon of Giovanni Jr.'s with a simple Ice Beam. And then you're going to see Nidoking go down just like the ones before. So really, things are not looking good for Giovanni Jr. And it's because he's got a type disadvantage. He doesn't really have anything that can do much to Articuno. And that Toxic miss first turn really is what sealed in this battle. Just a clean sweep, no damage on Chad's team. Game 17 sees some returning favorites, Ash and Faraday. Hopping right into this battle, Ash is going to lead off with Flareon as Faraday leads off with his strongest, Zapdos. And it takes 1 Thunderbolt to finish off the Flareon. Ash now sends out Arcanine, who actually takes quite a bit of damage from that Thunderbolt, but the Fire Blast does hardly anything, meaning Zapdos gets another knockout under its belt. Rapidash comes out, and Zapdos is just going to continue going for those Thunderbolts, as Rapidash gets a little bit of chip damage with a Stomp, but it's not going to matter much as it goes down to a Thunderbolt. Next up, Charizard. Now, Charizard is Ash's strongest Pokemon, and he's going to go for the Body Slam, but that's not going to do hardly anything. He goes for Flamethrower and almost takes out the Zapdos. However, Zapdos has still got some ability under its belt, and a Thunder to one-shot the Moltres, giving Faraday a pretty simple win. Game 18, we see the returning Jasper and the returning Zephyr. Zephyr leads off with the Gyarados, as Amistar is the lead for Jasper, and a Surf does not that much, but Amistar's Blizzard freezes Gyarados. And if you know one thing about Generation 1, freeze is pretty much permanent unless you have a Fire-type move. And Gyarados here does not, so it just stays frozen and gets knocked out. Next up is Zapdos on Zephyr's side. Now, Zephyr does have the advantage in this quick showdown. However, Zapdos doesn't do much else for Jasper's team, and Jasper is easily going to be able to knock it out with the Golem. Dragonite comes out. Dragonite is faster than Golem, so it's able to get in with a Wrap and lock that thing in. Golem switches out knowing that it's not going to be doing much, and a Wrap locks in Onix as well. So Dragonite really using its higher speed to its advantage against some of these rock types who are a lot slower. And you see Jasper trying to figure out what to do here, just switching out, hoping that the miss happens from Dragonite, and that way he can actually fire back, because any rock type move is going to do a lot of damage. And he gets lucky here and gets that Rock Slide off, but it doesn't really matter because Golem can switch out, and Aerodactyl comes in, which probably should have been the switch in anyway, because it is faster than Dragonite, so it's able to finish that thing off. Articuno comes in and pretty much has a free hit on Aerodactyl, since Aerodactyl has to recharge. And now Golem comes out and Blizzard annihilates Golem. We see Onix come out. Now, Onix is surprisingly fast, and he goes for an explosion trying to get the jump on Articuno, but it's not quite enough, and another Blizzard is all that it takes. Here we are in round 4. Now, round 4 actually starts off with a loser's bracket battle, 2 of them to be exact, and then round 4 finishes off with the only 2 that are still remaining in the winner's circle. Game 19, we see Blue take on Faraday. Can Blue overcome this type weakness? Let's find out. We're going to see Blue lead off with the Vaporeon, as Faraday leads off with his strongest Pokemon, Zapdos. And right off the bat, Vaporeon goes for a quick attack just for chip, and Zapdos just demolishes that Pokemon. Cloyster comes out, gets demolished by Zapdos just the same. We're going to see Starmie come out. Now, Starmie is a Pokemon that, if there was one that could outstand a Thunder Shock or a Thunderbolt, it would most likely been Starmie, but it goes down one shot. So it's not looking good for Blue. Tentacruel goes down, and then Gyarados, who is quad weak to Thunderbolt, stands out and doesn't do much. Blastoise, the last Pokemon for Blue, it also stands no chance. Faraday getting a clean sweep. Game 20, we see Ground-type Giovanni Jr. versus the Sky High Zephyr. Giovanni Jr. leads off with Dugtrio as Zephyr leads off with the Articuno. And this time, the Toxic does connect, and that's really what Giovanni Jr. needed to even have a shot at this. So that Toxic is going to slowly drain away Articuno's power, and luckily for Giovanni Jr., there is a miss on that Blizzard, meaning that he's able to knock out that Articuno. However, Gyarados comes in and is able to finish off the Rhydon. We're going to see Sandslash come out, and now it looks like Giovanni Jr. is on the back foot trying to react to the strategy that Zephyr is able to make use of. And having Surf is really good if your opponent only has ground types. Sandslash goes down, Nidoqueen comes out, and Nidoqueen does have a little bit more bulk than Sandslash, so it's able to survive. But that Thunderbolt doesn't do enough, and Gyarados is able to knock out that. Next up is Nidoking. Now, Nidoking does have a little bit more speed than Gyarados, and it's able to hit a Thunder, knocking that thing out. Dragonite comes out, and a Body Slam is going to hit, but not quite get the Paralysis, and Dragonite goes down to a Blizzard. Next up is Moltres. Now, Moltres is weak to Thunder. However, Thunder is not going to do enough, and Nidoking barely scrapes by. Thunder connects and gets a Paralysis on Moltres, giving a little bit of much-needed help for Giovanni Jr., and Marowak is able to come in and revenge kill the Moltres. Now, Aerodactyl is a problem for Giovanni Jr., because he doesn't really have much in terms of moves that can do much to it on his Marowak. So we're going to see Aerodactyl be able to fly and actually do more damage to the Marowak. However, we see a miss here. That miss really is annoying for Zephyr, but really I think Zephyr has got it at this point, because Strength is resisted by Aerodactyl, and it's just not doing enough. Plus, there's that turn in between a fly, and it just can't connect. Really, the only way Giovanni Jr. wins this is if Aerodactyl keeps missing, and it's not going to. The last battle of round 4 is also the last battle with those with the winning streak. Only one of them will be able to go forward from here without a loss under their belt. Slowbro is the lead for Nexus, as Articuno is the lead for Chad. Now, Articuno is Chad's strongest Pokemon right out the gate, and it's able to take these hits from Slowbro pretty well. But luckily for Nexus, the dodge right there, and the special drop. And that's really what Slowbro needed. But now Lapras comes out, and even with that special drop, it's able to kill off the Slowbro with a Thunderbolt. We're going to see Mr. Mime come out. Now, Mr. Mime does have Thunderbolt itself, but it's going to set up a light screen early on, and that way it can take some of these hits even better. But the thing is, it's going to be paralyzed, and it's not able to take advantage of that super effective move. Mew comes out, and now Mew is going to immediately throw out some Psychics, but get paralyzed, just as Mr. Mime did, so things are not looking that great for Nexus. A Psychic into the Jinx, and Jinx is able to take that, and fires back, and lowers the special on Mew. Then we see a switch into Articuno on the Chad side, which is interesting, and then we see a switch on Nexus's side into Hypno. Now, Blizzards are hitting pretty bad, but one turn miss is all Hypno needs to shut down that special stat. And Articuno takes to the sky, but Hypno is able to survive and finish off Chad's strongest Pokemon. Now, Jinx is able to come out, and Jinx can get a revenge kill on Hypno. Jinx is a great Pokemon, and they both happen to have a Jinx, both of them with the Lola nickname. So we're going to see some Jinx back and forth, trying to go for Body Slam or Psychic, trying to get either Paralysis or Special Drop. And it looks like Nexus's Jinx is going to win the Tug of War. We see Dugong come out, and Dugong's able to take these hits because it has really good bulk, and it fires back a Surf. Now, if this was a Jinx with Dry Skin, it could take that, but we're in Generation 1, that doesn't exist yet. Alakazam comes out, and it's time to start sweeping. So Alakazam takes out the Dugong, and it does a lot of damage to Cloyster, but Cloyster actually misses its attack and goes down to another Psychic. And that's going to leave the Lapras, which we already saw earlier, and Alakazam has no problem taking that out. So here we are at round 5. Now round 5 is interesting because it's only the loser brackets that make up round 5. In fact, Battle 22 is going to put Faraday against Zephyr, a rematch from Battle 3. And the winner of that takes on Chad in Battle 23. Only one can come back into the winner circle to take on Nexus. And here we go into Game 22, the rematch between Faraday and Zephyr. And if you remember Battle 3, things went very poorly for Faraday. Can Faraday turn things around? Well, right off the bat, Zapdos knocks out the Dragonite, and that is huge. But unfortunately for Faraday, the Zapdos misses the other Zapdos, bring back memories of round 3, where his Zapdos was continuously paralyzed, and we see a swap from Faraday's side into Raichu, and Raichu is faster than Zapdos, so it's able to fire back a Thunder Wave onto Zapdos, and that's what they do. They end up trading Thunder Waves. Things are not looking that great for Faraday, just because, if you remember Battle 3, a lot of his Pokemon got paralyzed and were unable to battle. Now we see some of the similar things happening here, but this time he's put some paralysis on Zapdos, and Zapdos seems to be doing pretty good against this Raichu, and it finally knocks it out after Raichu misses a Mega Punch. Next up is Electabuzz. Now Electabuzz is faster than Zapdos thanks to that paralysis, but Zapdos is not going to let things stay that way, and Electabuzz ends up being fully paralyzed, but then it finally breaks through and it hits a much needed Thunder Punch. We see Articuno come out, and now the good thing for Faraday is that he no longer has to necessarily worry about all the paralysis being shifted around, so he's able to take on the Articuno. Next up is Gyarados. Now, Electabuzz goes for Quick Attack just to get some chip damage right before it gets knocked out with a Surf. And then Jolteon comes out. Now, the good thing about Jolteon is that it is faster, but instead of immediately attacking, this time Faraday is going to set up a Reflect and then knock out the Gyarados. Moltres comes out, and Thunder Shock is what's going to be used because that's the move that Jolteon knows. And then Jolteon's going to get burnt with a Fire Blast. And luckily for Jolteon, Moltres is fully paralyzed, giving it another chance to get some good chip damage before going back into Zapdos. And now Faraday showing us that rest that was sitting there on his Zapdos this whole time. He's rested it up, healed it up, and ready to turn the tides of this battle around with one more Thunderbolt. Now we see that Faraday is in the driver's seat instead of Zephyr, and one Thunder is all it takes. Here we are, our last battle before the finale. This is Chad versus Faraday. Now, Faraday has been making his way through the entire losers bracket, as Chad has been doing very well in the winner circle. And we see them both lead off with their strongest Pokemon. Right out the gate, Zapdos being faster means it's able to get the hits in quicker. However, Jinx is now going to come in after Articuno falls, and it gets the knockout on Zapdos. Jolteon comes out. Jolteon's pretty fast, so it's able to outspeed the Jinx and get a revenge kill. And that leaves a lot of Pokemon that are weak to Faraday's Pokemon, Lapras being one of them. Jolteon's going to set up a Reflect, maybe for the Body Slam, and we're going to see a Thunder Wave followed by Thunder Shock. Now, Thunder Shock here is doing decent damage, not as much as you would think, and it looks like Lapras, if it's able to break through, it's going to finally finish off the Jolteon. However, Lapras is in a weakened state, and Raichu is pretty fast, so it's able to come out and finish off the Lapras. But now we see Dugong come out. Now, Dugong is also a pretty bulky water-type Pokemon. And you can see that it actually takes those hits pretty well from the Raichu. It does get paralyzed, but it's still able to power through. And now Raichu finally finishes off the Dugong. And that leaves a Cloyster. Now, Cloyster is very weak to special moves. And it looks like it's going to be a 2-hit KO upon Cloyster. Raichu goes down. And now Faraday really needs to connect here with this Thunder. And he is able to. So he finally makes his way. Even though he lost early on in the game, he's now able to make it.
Faraday. 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 Listen closely. Nexus is no ordinary opponent. He is a being with unimaginable psychic powers. He's the reason you're here. This tournament is his doing. He brought all of you here, so you will battle one another, and so he can take your Pokemon. The losers of this tournament, they're gone. All of them. Every single one.
Hello? Anyone who... You go ahead. I'm used to caves like this.
I'm almost there. I can see the sunlight.
Who's that? What are you going to do when you get out of here?
I think I'll find my father. There might be some good in him still.
Let me guess. You just got eliminated.
I think this guy means to harm us. Come on, let's get out of here.
I'm from the same universe that Nexus has come from. Our world is gone, but you still have a chance, Faraday. All you have to do is win. Everything is on your shoulders, Faraday.
Here it is, the final battle. Can Faraday get a surprise victory here, or does Nexus clinch the win? We see Alakazam come out for Nexus as Zapdos is the lead for Faraday. And Alakazam immediately throws out a Thunder Wave to paralyze the Zapdos, which cuts some of its usability. We see Zapdos going for Thunderbolts, but Alakazam survives enough to be able to get a recover in and then fire back some more Psychics, getting some more of those special drops, which really matter here because Alakazam survives with 1 HP and is able to bring its health back up. Now we see Jolteon come out for Faraday, and Jolteon will paralyze the Alakazam, something that Faraday desperately needs if he wants a chance here. And Jolteon goes for Reflect, which it probably would have been better going for an attack, but then we see a paralysis here as Alakazam does a lot of damage to the Jolteon, and Jolteon sacrifices itself with a takedown to prevent a possible recover. And then Electabuzz comes out here, finishing off the Alakazam. Jinx comes out, and now Jinx is looking pretty strong. We're going to see a Psychic from the Electabuzz, which is resisted, so it doesn't really do that much, and doesn't even give it a special drop. And Jinx is able to take down the Electabuzz with a Psychic. We see Raichu come out. Now, Raichu is pretty fast, and it throws a Mega Punch. However, it's not enough to get rid of the Jinx. And Jinx actually does a lot of damage to Raichu. But Raichu, the next turn, is able to finish off the Jinx. Mew comes out on Nexus's side and starts throwing out some of those Psychics. Raichu does paralyze the Mew, which really cuts into it. But you can see Mew takes these hits very well. It has some decent bulk. We're going to see Electrode come out. Electrode is going to set up a Screech here to lower that defense and then try to hit it with a Thunder. However, it misses, and Electrode now pops the explosion, and you see Mew surviving with 1 HP. That's not going to matter, though, because Zapdos will outspeed the Mew and finish it off. And that leaves Slowbro here on Nexus' side, but Slowbro actually outspeeds the Zapdos, giving Nexus the victory.
Now what? You got what you came here for. You've beat me. What else is there to do?
One more battle. No holds barred.
Faraday, listen to me. I will reset the Nintendo 64, trapping him here forever so he can't hurt anyone else. Just distract him, please. This is it. The only way to stop him.